Yo, 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 what's going on, everybody? My name is Rob Carmona, and thank you for tuning into episode 16 of Rob the Mic. So, for today's episode, I kind of wanted to get into car talk because I ended up having an unintentionally car-filled weekend, but it was kind of cool. So, it started on Friday. I ended up meeting up with a friend of mine, Julian, and his daughter. Well, at first one daughter, and then his other daughter too, which was pretty fucking cool because I got to hang out with both of my nieces. I consider them my nieces because I consider Julian a brother. He's a very, very close friend of mine, and we come from the same team, WFC. So he stays out in the valley and was like, hey, dude, why don't we cruise out to Bob's on Friday? And for those of you guys who are from here, I'm sure you know what restaurant I'm talking about. And for those of you guys who aren't from around here, Bob's is one of the oldest establishments here in LA. And there's a few locations, but the one in Burbank has this really, really rich car culture. And it's a very specific type of car culture. I would say it's definitely based around American vintage vehicles. So you see a lot of like 42 Fords, 56 Bel Airs, Corvettes, things of the sort. Everything kind of basing around like old Americana, which is really cool. But I had never been. Never. I've never been there to eat. I've never been there just to hang out or anything like that. The Bob's that I normally go to is the one that's in Downey. And the car culture there used to be really rich, but it's kind of died off a little bit. They still host some events every now and then, but it doesn't have the same weight that I guess the one that in Burbank, or it doesn't have the same weight as Burbank, because Burbank, every Friday night, it goes off. And honestly, it's not even at night, because when I went, I ended up getting there, I would say around 4 o'clock. Yeah, I'd say around 4 o'clock. And it was already pretty packed. And it's definitely an older generation. So for those of you guys who aren't really used to stuff like that or used to hanging around that scene, you're definitely going to see a lot of older heads. So usually guys like in their 60s, 70s, and 80s usually. So I was probably one of the youngest people there for for a little bit. And then a couple more guys ended up pulling up in their classics. But we got there and it was cool because I got there a little bit early. And I got the first parking spot right in the front. It just so happened somebody had left. So parked up really quick. I had brought my camera and I started walking around, just checking stuff out. And what I started to notice, which I thought was really cool, and I know I've talked to you guys about this before regarding car culture, is just kind of the family that revolves around it. Because everybody that was there, they seem to know each other. Like they've been going there for years. This is nothing new. It's a Friday night tradition. It was like, whether it was a person by themselves or with their wives, everyone knew everybody. And it was really cool. Everyone was so happy to be there. So again, I had never been to this location and I had never seen this kind of culture. I've only seen pictures and stuff like that. And I know that Jay Leno's been there a few times. And so I know what the vibe kind of is, but it was something I had never been exposed to. So as I'm walking around, I start looking at these cars and I have to kind of take myself out of the mindset of like being a tuner and coming from that kind of realm, because it's a very different headspace. The way they modify cars, the way they go about everything, it's not necessarily to be different. And I'm not saying it's like that for everybody, because there was some people there that had some insane custom work done. But I feel like a lot of it is based around like being very period correct. But there's something about Americana when it's done in a period correct kind of way that's really beautiful, because it's so simple, it's so clean, and it's just something you can look at and appreciate, right? And especially when you see something from like the 50s, the 60s, you look at it and you're like, damn, dude, this is so pristine. Like this looks like it rolled off the floor. And then you have your other guys that go like super far out with their like custom Fords, chop tops, fully custom suspension, brand new frame. And it's like, whoa, dude, this is wild too. And then that's, of course, where I can relate to that a little bit more because of the customization and the amount of time, money, love, thought, all that, the way that it goes into these builds. That stuff I can appreciate. And it was funny because when Julian got there, we started to walk around and check out the cars. I had already walked around a few times, so I kind of knew. I was pointing out like which cars, like, hey, dude, this one over here is pretty bad. This one over here is pretty bad, and X, Y, Z. But we walked past this one yellow, I want to say, I don't know exactly what it was, but I know it was like a Ford Roadster. So it was like a two-door coupe. So, and I'd say somewhere maybe in like the 50s, maybe mid 40s, 50s realm. It was like a bright yellow. It was really, really beautiful. So I'm walking around it, checking everything out about it, because the suspension work was really nice. The wheels were really nice. The paint, the interior, beautiful. But as I was walking around to the back of the car, the owner of the car was walking to the back of it as well. And I don't know, it was like a weird exchange, because he saw me that I was sitting there taking pictures of it for a little bit, and I was just checking everything out. So when he walks to the back, I was like, hey man, this thing's really beautiful. And I got the most whatever response that I could have received. Like he couldn't even look at me. He just like he reached into his trunk and then did like a half turn, you know what I mean? So he didn't like fully turn around to acknowledge me, but he just gave me like a little half turn and was like, thanks. And then that was it. Nothing. No sort of like, oh man, thank you. You know, it took me a long time to do this, XYZ. I don't know, anything. There was zero interaction. And I noticed, I feel like that's pretty common within that space. Like I've had that before with other owners who are in that kind of Americana realm. And it's not, like, I don't really know what to make of it. I don't know what to make of it. It makes me sad though, because I'm like, well, if it was me, I would want to talk about it, because I know when people come up to me and say, hey, dude, like your car is really nice. Like, not that I try to spark a conversation, but I do welcome the conversation. I always make sure to try and do that. Like, hey, dude, thank you. I really appreciate it. That means a lot. And then usually with kind of giving out that sort of energy of being welcoming and being cool about it, it brings people to ask questions. And like I experienced that this past Sunday at a Cars and Coffee. But the thing is, continue going on with Friday, Julian and I were talking about the same thing that we were talking about with the Lowrider show, which is the culture and how much it's preserved and how much it's alive, and sort of keeping that standard. Because the thing is, when you drive into Bob's, there's different ways that you can pull into the parking lot. And I guess you could say 3 different ways, but one way is driving right in front of the restaurant. So as soon as you pull in, you're going to drive down like the main aisle. So everyone that was parked in the front, like basically there was like an L shape, and that L shape is the main parking for Bob's. Everyone that was parked in there was pristine. It didn't matter what it was, whether there was a couple MGs that pulled up. They're like these little 2-door convertibles. Those were badass. There was 4 DeLoreans, which was really fucking cool. I don't care what anybody has to say. DeLoreans are fucking cool. They're rad to see out and about. And to see 4 of them driving and then parked next to each other was sick. There was a replica Knight Rider car. And there was like a really badass, I think it was like a 56. It's a 56 Bel Air. It's like a teal turquoise, massive slicks on the back. It was this guy and his wife, but like, beautiful cars, all of them, amazing paint, really well taken care of, super nice. Everyone that was parked there was incredible. And even if there was an open spot, if your car and or truck wasn't to that caliber, nobody parked there. You wouldn't park there. It was a thing. There was multiple times where there would be, let's say, like a single open space right in the front or right along the L. It didn't matter. Like the person knew if their car wasn't there, they didn't park there. And it was so rad to see. So fucking rad to see, because that sort of respect and love, it kind of keeps that alive, right? Because even the cars that were parked outside of that L, let's say they got there a little bit late, there was still parking right in the front. People tried to reserve that, and the same respect was there too. So seeing that, and the fact that everyone kind of knew what the rules were without having to tell somebody what the rules were was wild. And I'm like, damn, dude, you see, like, this is where it's at. And Julie and I couldn't get over it because we kept seeing it throughout the night. It didn't matter if there was no lights in this area of parking. Still, if it was in the front, you didn't park there unless your car was meant to be there. Or if it was super clean, just that had some sort of weight to it, right? Because you're trying to park with the big dogs. Everyone's there for a reason. They got this love. They got these beautiful cars. So if you're going to park there, there's a reason why you're parking there. So as we're walking around, checking out everything, we're just kind of talking about it and seeing what's going on. And obviously I'm with his daughters at this point in the night because both of them were there at this point. And I was just kind of watching them like be fascinated by all these cars and like be super excited. And even the people that were walking around, it was like, man, this is fucking cool, dude. This is cool. These people have created this sort of realm to sit in and kind of go back in time for a little while. And it just, I don't know, it felt like something else. Like the music, all you heard was like oldies that were going on. And it felt super nostalgic. But again, this is something that the people created. And it's been this way forever. Forever. I ran into a buddy of mine, Cal, who also lives out there. And he was telling me, he's like, dude, you've never been here before? And I was like, nah, man, I've never been here before. Like, I've never experienced the Bobs out here. I've only been to the one by my house. So he's like, bro, it's been like this ever since I can remember. Like, this is just always how it's been. And as I was listening to people's conversations as they were talking about the event, when we were just kind of, let's say, walking around, or if we got stuck in front of a certain car, people have been going there for years. And it's like, again, this is what they created. And this is what I was trying to talk to you guys about last time when I was talking about the G-Side show, because carrying this sort of culture, it used to have, especially for us in the import, I guess like more in the import modified scene, it used to have that kind of weight. It used to be like that, but things changed up. And the whole like respect all builds type of thing started to take over. And I feel like people used it as a crutch because they weren't there. So it was like, I'm not here yet, but I will get there. So I'm going to park here with you guys. And it's like, no. No. Go the fuck over there. Like, you can't park here yet. One day you will be able to park here and kick it over on this side. But as of right now, you can't. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what I feel like has to be carried out and pushed out more, is to just enjoy the process and understand that once you get there, you'll understand why, like, the work, the time, the effort, all of it, like what it all means. Because it's like you finally get to go into the pearly gates, right? Like you finally get to go into this place that you've worked to get to. And it means more. It means a lot more, because even for myself, for example, coming from WFC, when we would have shows or meets or something like that, I even knew, because when I first got into the team and I started coming around the team, I had an E46 M3, really nice, but it wasn't to the standard of the crew. It wasn't slammed. My fitment wasn't there. It was a very different style, but I knew that one day I was going to get it there, because that was my plan with the car. So I still parked not far away from them, but I parked in a certain area that wasn't necessarily with the show cars. So even for myself, I knew that. And even my crew members too, like we all knew that. And they told me about that. I'm the one who learned a lot of this shit from them, just show etiquette and how to do certain things and why we do certain things a certain way. And it gave me, I don't know, it gave me this like weird sense of excitement and like hope, because I knew that one day I was going to get my car to a certain level that I would be able to park with the rest of my crew. And I know that sounds weird, right? Because it's like, oh man, well, you're a part of it, but you're not a part of it. But the thing is, I was a part of it. From a certain point forward, it was my life and it became everything, and still is. My crew is a big, big part of my life. And I'll always have that love and respect for every single member that we have. But there's a difference. And when I learned what that difference was and I started to see it, I was like, damn, dude. Like, no way. No way. Like, look at this attention to detail. Like, I had certain friends that had their entire cars done. Interior, exterior, motor, everything. Every single thing had been touched. And I was like, man, I'm nowhere near this level. Like, I can't even. To a point, I even kind of knew that I shouldn't park next to this person or shouldn't be there. And it just felt weird. And they were like, yo, so this is why we do it this way. And this is like learning that kind of respect. It taught me something else. And I've kind of always carried it regardless of what's been going on, right? So regardless of the new movement, the way new stance has come in and things like that, I've never fully adopted it. And I don't think I ever will. And it's not like I'm not trying to change my mentality, because I understand the whole respect all builds thing and that everyone has a different like income and not everyone can afford to do certain things and get certain parts. Like, I get that. But it's having the respect for the scene and understanding that there is levels to this shit. You know, you have your top tier, you have your guys that are almost at top tier, you have your middle. Like, I think it breaks down pretty fucking heavy and you can kind of see what's going on. So bringing that sort of mentality back, it is so important because, again, you look at scenes like the ones at Bob's, and granted, yeah, it's American classics, but there's a whole realm of respect, love, camaraderie, all of this that's been ingrained into this place and ingrained into this movement that people know and they respect it. And they go expecting a certain thing. Even the people who come just to see cars, right? They're not going to go there just to look at junk. Granted, yeah, they're going to walk around the entire parking lot and maybe there's some cars that might not be the nicest, but those people parked in a certain place and they came here for a reason, which was to see some badass classics. And every car that was in the front is all badass classics. So I think shifting and bringing back that sort of mentality into the scene that I'm in and to a lot of you who are listening and or watching now, because you also come from the same background that I do, if we can bring some of that back, everything will start to shift up. There's going to be a different sort of caliber and respect at shows, at meets, things like that, because that degree of separation is important. It gives people something to work for. It gives people something to get excited about versus coming out. And this is no shade to anyone who has this or whatever, but this is just an example. Like if you have, let's say you have a bunch of VIP cars, right? So super done up interior, exterior, suspension's all done, looks completely badass. Like the way a VIP car, what you would picture, that's what you see, right? Like the ideal VIP car. You have a bunch of these cars parked up. And then you have some random dude in a clapped LS400 slammed to the fucking ground, literally dragging frame on stock wheels. Kit, like no kit, front bumper's all fucked up. Everything's all fucked up. Paint's all stupid. You're going to tell me you go to a certain event, you see a whole line of VIP cars that you want to see this LS400 parked right in the middle of these guys? I'm pretty sure you don't. And even if you did see it, you'd be like, why the fuck is this here? Like, why is this here? You know, like to me, it's like the amount of disrespect that goes down when something like that happens. And it's like, you have no regard for what the fuck's going on around you and you have no respect for the scene, right? Because you're basically saying that your shitbox is the exact same as these other cars. And there's other cars that are there who it's taken these guys years to build, years to piece together, years to go down about it. You're talking, I mean, some of the guys that I know, including myself, were 5, 6, 7, 8 years owning these cars, taking things apart, fixing shit, doing this, doing that, making changes here, making changes there. So it's kind of like, again, you're saying my shit's the same. That's why I'm parked here. And in reality, it's not. It's nowhere near that. And it's mad disrespectful. So shifting that sort of mindset is going to really help the scene out. And I know some of you guys listening and or watching probably going to be like, dude, what a fucking asshole. This guy's a total dick. But the thing is, look, you're allowed to think, say whatever the fuck you want, whether it's about me or anything, the scene, however, it doesn't matter. This is simply my opinion. This is simply how I feel about it because I've been around for a very long time. I've been involved in stance and kind of jumping into the realm since like 2008. And I've gotten to see things change. And it's sad because some of that change was for the better and a lot of it was for the worse. And that's the thing, is just kind of watching the decline. And it dove like really, really fast, which was sad. And I didn't expect it to go that way. But this is kind of where it's ended up. And I think for those of us who are still involved in it, especially who come from the older era of stance, it is our responsibility to bring this shit back up. So each and every single one of you who comes from the older realm of stance, it's our job. It is our responsibility. It's nobody else's responsibility, because it's very rare that you're going to find somebody new that even knows about those ideals or knows about those, like those ways of life. They don't know. So how the fuck can we expect them to hold the standard up? They can't, because they don't even know what the standard is. They don't know what it was. They weren't around to see it. They didn't know what it meant to be accepted to WeekFest back in like 2010. You know, like they didn't know that time. They didn't understand it. They didn't know what it meant to join a crew through a forum and to go through thousands of reviews. And the fact that out of 1,000 submissions, your car was going to be chosen to top 5. And whoever won out of this was going to get a crew number. Because that's how we did it with WFC. We had forum votes. If you thought your car was good enough, you submitted it. And hopefully you were going to win and get a number. But if you won, there was some sort of weight to it. It meant something because it was like, fuck, dude, you went through the ranks, all the OGs. It was almost like, for those of you guys who watch, I guess you could say like Sons or like Mayans is a really good example. It's not exactly like that, but it kind of is like that in a way where like the team comes together and votes, right? And for WFC stuff, like we did the general forum votes. So like everyone who was there could go through and see shit. And granted, some cars will get ripped apart because guys thought they were ready and they weren't ready. And they were told why they weren't ready. Like, oh, because of X, Y, Z, da, da, da. And it would rip these fools apart. But what it made a lot of these guys do was go back to the drawing board, finish shit up, buckle it up, make it right, and come back and be like, ooh, okay, this is what we were waiting for. This is what the fuck we were talking about. Because again, there was a standard, there was a respect, and it was like, fuck, I thought it was ready, but now it's ready. And a lot of the times when those cars did certain things like that, and they went through the ranks and they went through the processes, when they got their numbers, oh man, it was like everyone just kind of, you know, you give a heavy salute and you're like, tight, welcome, let's get it. You know, go out there, represent the crew, represent yourself, represent everything that we stand for. And it really meant something. So again, bringing back those sorts of ideals and those sorts of things is really fucking important. And that's how we're going to keep the scene alive and thriving. Because it's one thing just to keep it alive, but the problem is when it's not thriving, it's just sitting there. It's lifeless. Like it's alive, but it's barely alive. And that's kind of how I feel about the scene. And I'm sure a lot of you watching or listening probably agree with me. You're like, dude, it's there, but it's not there. It's not the same. You know, and that's why there's certain meets within that, like, I guess like the tuner world that are super important to us, that mean a lot. I'd say one of the bigger ones that I really appreciate every single month and I love going to it is like 240 Tuesday. My buddy Sid puts that on. It's at the Hat in Brea, the first Tuesday of every month. If you haven't like had a chance to get out there because it's worth it. And that's a prime example. Like, oh my God, it's everything that I've been talking about right now. It's a prime example of like the respect and love that has been developed in a certain space. So everyone knows there's a tiny little parking lot, like a little tiny thing right next to the Hat, the parking in front, and even like the parking, there's like a little section of parking that you can kind of see from that little space. Everyone who parks right here in the front, like they know they should be there. They know the cars are super clean. Everything's really fucking nice. And then the guys who are still working on their cars, and girls, because a bunch of girls show up too, which is sick. And everyone who's kind of working on their shit, they don't park necessarily up front. They sit a little bit further back. And the guys who are a little bit on the nicer side, you know, they start to creep up. The guys who are like show ready, boom. Or if they have like a certain style drift car that's like really hot, right there in the front. And everybody respects that. And it's tight. Like you see it. You see it. There's levels to this shit and everybody appreciates it there. And that's what I'm talking about because that's what it used to be like. You know, and the thing is, Sid and I have conversations about this a lot. And I'm actually going to have him on the podcast pretty soon. So stay tuned for that episode. But we talk about it a lot because, again, creating that is really important. That's what's going to help the scene grow. We have to teach the generation that's under us why it should be this way and why it's so important to keep that standard. Because again, at a certain point, all you're going to have is a bunch of clapped out shit boxes everywhere. And it's what makes things hard, right? Like we try going to certain meets, trying to go certain things. And it's the type of person who drives cars like that, right? Like there's a whole stigma behind it. And you have this whole like the takeover culture and all this bullshit. And those people fuck everything up for everybody. Everybody. Like, if you support that shit and you fuck with it, unfollow your boy. Unfollow the podcast. Unfollow my personal page. Like, I can't fuck with you. Because a lot of that shit is a reason why we can't have events, why we can't do certain things. And for me, it actually does affect me directly. Because like I was talking to you guys about before, I've been trying to throw events. I have an event personally that I like to throw called Summer Jam. I've been struggling to find an area for that. Right now, currently, I'm looking for something from the WFC 15-year anniversary. Really tough to find something for that as well. Why? Because the whole takeover culture, nobody wants anything to do with anything modified regarding a car. Because they automatically think, oh, dude, there's going to be burnouts. People are going to be swinging it, going crazy, doing this, that, and the third. And it's not like that. It's not like that. And so shit like that fucks it up. And it's bringing back a standard and bringing back this sort of like, ugh, that shit's nasty. Like, get the fuck out of here. Creating that degree of separation is really important. Because even for those of us who've been around for so long, we knew which meets to go to and which meets to stay away from. You know? Like prime example. For those of us who are around for this time, we had Tab Tuesday. Tab Tuesday was super important. It was just this like really core group of JDM cars that showed up, super badass. It was always a good time. And the quality was there. And the right people showed up every time. And then you also had meets like the Krispy Kreme meet. And the Krispy Kreme meets went down in like different areas, right? So there was one that was in the valley that used to pop off like super nasty. There was one that used to pop off in, I guess technically it's like West Covina, Azusa area, something like that. That one used to be a shit show too. But everybody knew. You knew, for example, you couldn't compare Tab Tuesday and like the Krispy Kreme meets type of thing. Because Tab was super chill, respectful, badass. You knew that. Krispy Kreme was going to be an absolute shit show. There was going to be revving. There was going to be burnouts. It's probably going to be dudes fighting. Like, it's going to be a situation every single time. But there was a massive degree of separation. And it was very rare that you had the people who were going to Tab to go check out this crispy shit. Because you already knew the cops were going to be there. It was going to be a problem. You're probably going to get a ticket if you looked a certain way. So having that sort of degree of separation was important then. And it's even more important now because it keeps the standard alive and it gives people something to work towards because not everyone's there. Not everyone's there. And it's okay. You know, you can't always get to 100 like from the jump. There's no fucking way. And that's how it is with a lot of shit in life, right? Like, you're not going to start at the top. You got to work your way up. But the thing is, once you reach a certain point, you're like, damn, dude, this was worth it. And when you hit the top of wherever you are, and granted, the top that's loose, right? Because like, what is the top in cars? It's kind of tough to say. You can't really turn around and just be like, dude, it is this. Like, no, it's that to you. But there's sort of like a general standard of once you kind of hit like a top tier. Because there's certain things you need, certain things you got to have, and certain things you got to be about. And when your car emulates that, then it's like, ooh, that's a top tier build. So we all, for the most part, have an understanding of that. But it's keeping that shit alive and bringing it back for the people who don't know that it ever existed. Because there's certain people who think there's some guys who just have really nice cars and there's some guys who just have shit boxes. Like, no, that's not how it works. Everybody worked to get to a certain level to do a certain thing. Whether it was a drift car, a street car, a show car, anything. There was levels to everything. And there was a level of respect for it, which again, I think has to be kind of re-injected back into the scene. So when Julian and I finished up the night, we just sat there, we kept reminiscing on things and it was like, dude, how do we fix it? How do we fix this shit? How do we bring it back? What do we do? How do we go about it? And I hope that over time, I'm not saying that Julian and I are going to fix it, but we do see it as our responsibility to be a part of a change and to be a part of something that can grow, because the generations coming, they need that lesson. They need that sort of guidance because it's important, right? We all look to the past for guidance, whether it's your family, whether it's your friends, you know what I mean? Like, there's people, You're going to ask things in life that you don't know about. And that's where you get your wisdom from. That's where you get everything. It's from the past. Hey, don't do this because this could happen. Or hey, go do this because this is actually going to help you. And this is with everything. This isn't just with cars. Like, I'm talking about general shit. But it also has to do with cars too. Like, those parallels, they run, or I guess those things run parallel to each other. Because you can kind of pick and pull from everything that has to do with shit like that. But if there's a way that I can be a part of it and the people around me can be a part of it, it's something that we want to do. And again, with certain meets, certain events, those things are helping to kind of bring that standard back slowly. And I feel like, again, if you want to see something like that, check out 240 Tuesday. First Tuesday of the month, every month, rain or shine. And I mean it when it comes to rain or shine, because I've been there when it's absolutely pouring and I'm walking around with an umbrella. So it doesn't matter. The community supports it. They're there for it. And it's also tight with that one specifically because that area, like Brea, everybody knows. Everyone who lives in this area, like in SoCal, knows, like, dude, when it comes to modded cars, Brea doesn't fuck around. There are certain areas you can kind of slip around. Not a big deal. Brea doesn't fuck with that shit. They're like, oh, you're modified? Tight. We're going to give your ass a ticket. Hey, we're going to state ref your car. Like, it's a hot area. It's not it. But somehow the cops come through. It'd be multiple cops sometimes. And they just come through to check shit out. That's it. Once in a while, you'll see some, like, one walk around, but it's very, very rare that you see that. But they'll drive by, they'll cruise through the aisles and just kind of take a look and then dip out. And they fuck with it. They let everybody kick back because they know what it is. There's a certain type of respect that they have for the event and the people who host it, right? And the fact, also, it's really tight because the hat supports it. They really do. And it's dope. Like, we've had interactions with them, like, on Instagram, and they're happy about it. And it's tight. It's great for business. It's great for the scene. It's great for everything all around. So again, as a whole, we got to push to bring shit like that to light and to continue to do and keep putting on these sorts of events. And I know other people are trying to throw events and they want it to be kind of like it was back in the day. But it's tough if you don't know what to inject into what you're doing, you know? And there's certain people who are around for that time who understand it, but it was different if you were around versus being around and in it, right? So there was a very select group of us who were around and also fully in it. Like, it was our life. It was our thing. It was our homies or ourselves that were running these massive events that were getting coverage all over the place, and that there was a standard and shit would get shut down. Like, again, another one for those of you guys to reminisce even harder, like the beach meets, whether it was our WFC meet, which got shut down multiple times. The last one that we had in Venice was fucking insane. That was also kind of our bad too, because when we planned it, we didn't know there was going to be a film festival like at the Santa Monica beach that we were at. So it's kind of a mess. But the fact that we had over 300 cars there that were all just like slammed to shit and also really dope. Like, that was really cool. So if you were able to be a part of something like that, or Hella Flush or anything like that, and we're in it, you were in a car, you pulled up, and it was everything about your life, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. And for those of you who didn't get to experience that, it's okay. It's totally okay. Because those types of things, they're going to come back. They will make their way back because the scene needs it. Like, everyone who's in it needs it. And I know people who are looking for something like that, and they keep talking about it like, fuck, I miss it, I miss it, I miss it. And it's like, okay, cool. Hearing shit like that is tight because it gives people like myself something to go off of, right? Because you know what the people want. So it's trying to find ways to give it to them. And again, for those of you guys who know of places who are willing to host events or willing to work with someone who's trying to host an event, reach out to me. DM me either on the podcast Instagram or on my personal Instagram. Holler at me and let me know, because I'm still looking. I'm still working. I actually came across a lead last week, and I'm trying to work with this place. I'm not going to throw it out there and name it because I don't know what's going to happen yet. But if it does, it'll be really cool. It's local, it's small, and it's right off the freeway. So for those of you like myself who don't fuck with street time, this is perfect for you because it's literally off the 5 As soon as you get off, depending which way you're going to go, as soon as you get off, it's a quick right and boom, you're there. So it's the ideal spot and hopefully it works out. But we'll see what happens. Trying to keep you guys posted with everything as much as I can. And I feel like with this, I can kind of do that because I can give you those weekly updates. But we'll see what happens. Hopefully, if there's something that I can do as a member of this community to bring things back and to kind of to show the standard once again, like I'm going to do it. I'm going to do everything in my power possible. And I know the homies who are listening right now, who are also a part of this community, I guarantee you they feel the same way. That they're going to do everything possible in their power to support and push and do whatever they have to do to bring the standard back. And to show people like, hey, this is what the scene needs and this is what I'm here for. And this is what we are here for. To cultivate something that'll just transcend time, that'll stand forever and kind of go back to the way things used to be. But in a positive way, right? Again, bringing back a standard, bringing back something people can fuck with. And once I left Friday night on the drive home, that's all I could think about. That's all I could think about. And it put me in a different space too, because going into the weekend, I knew I had a Cars and Coffee on Sunday with my buddy Rob, which is State of Speed that's held out in Gardena at Tireco. And dude, normally it's a really fucking cool event. And I say normally because of what's about to come after this. So cleaned my car up, washed it on Saturday, polished it up, got everything all set. And then Sunday, again with Julian, he came out. We met up a little bit before, pulled up together. And it's rad because both of our cars are black. And the fact that we're both crew members is really fucking cool. So we pulled up, parked. And the thing is, the event was a BMW versus Mercedes, like an all Euro event. I haven't been around all Euro since probably like 2010, 11, since I had my 46 M3. Because even when I had my E36, I didn't fuck with Euro events. It wasn't my thing. But it's because of, like, I already knew what the scene was. And it's fucking whack, dude. I know a lot of homies who are watching or listening right now who are in the Euro scene. They're probably busting up because they know what I'm talking about. But man, I don't miss it. And being there on Sunday, I felt so bad for Rob because I have so much love for him and this event that he's built up like at this place. Because normally it's super cool, super chill. Everyone's good vibes. Like it's very welcoming. Everyone just hangs out. Everyone goes there for a reason to kick back. And this event, it was so different. The vibe was so different. And I feel like that's a very Euro thing. Like people were super standoffish. Guys were like real dicks about their cars. It's like, dude, your car's not even that fucking tight. It's a bone stock AMG with black AMG wheels. Like, what's fucking sick about it? Why are you revving your shit nonstop? Like, shut the fuck up. And there was people doing that. Revving their shit, being total dickheads. There was this one fucking guy. Oh my God. He was in a silver E36 coupe. I think it was like a 325. Dude, he had on, they weren't Pit Vipers, but it was like a Pit Viper style glass, you know what I mean? So it was like a full lens. He was like bumping techno, and this fool was going up and down the fucking lanes, just revving his shit. And everyone's kind of staring at him like, what the fuck? Who is this guy? Like, whose Theo is this? And the reason why I say Theo is because this was an old ass fool. Not like a super old ass fool, but he was like, I'd say probably late 40s, early 50s, something of the sort. But man, this guy was a fucking clown. And he was doing it up and down every single aisle. And I'm like, bro, fucking stop. Stop. This shit's annoying as fuck. And then he'd dip out. He would leave and do flybys and then come back, rev up and down the aisles, and then park his shit. And then what happens? I remember at one point, Julian and I were walking around and we see this group of younger kids, probably not even 21, or maybe like around that realm, but like a bunch of them swarm up to his car. He pops his hood and they start gassing him up. And I'm like, this is a problem. This is a part of the problem. All these motherfuckers go up to him and they're gassing him up. Like, oh, this is sick. Oh, this, that, and the third. Like, nah, dude, that shit's fucking frowned upon as fuck. You look like an idiot. And again, just in that space, it was super disrespectful to the other owners that were there. Because there was some people that were there, for example, in the E36 chassis, that were crazy attention to detail, the way their kits were put on, fitment, everything, just beautiful cars. Like a buddy of mine, Mark, he was out there and he has a blue E36 M3. God, that thing is perfect, man. It is so perfect. Like, just everything. It's so proper. It's so fucking proper. And like the homies that were with him, they were kind of parked. They weren't parked in spaces, but they were parked at the end of like the parking rows because there was like cement right there, and that's where they were parking. Him and his homies all had pristine 36s like that. And it's like, fuck, man, these things could be like easily on the show floor of a dealer or something like that. Or these could be in like the Peterson type of thing. Like one of his friends had like a full Euro spec that was imported from Japan. And you wouldn't know unless you knew certain things like about interior details and things like that. But it was like, this is it. And did you see them doing shit like that? Nah. They're parked up, they're kicking it, and that's it. That's it. If you had questions, you could ask. They were super cool. But again, you have all these people around here that are super standoffish. Like there was one guy, Julian and I were busting up. He's sitting in his car blasting techno. He wouldn't get out of his car. He stayed in his car the entire time and was just blasting techno and looked like a total dickhead. So I'm like, you see, this is a fucking problem, man. And I felt so bad for Rob because he tries so hard to put these events on. And it takes so much work, so much time, so much energy. And then you have these fucking assholes that show up and fuck it all up. Because there were dudes fucking shit up the entire time. You had guys doing fucking runs up and down the street that were racing up and down the street. Like, yo, what the fuck are you doing? Because all it takes is one time and the cops show up and now it's a problem because they're going to be there every single time. And that's not what we're looking for, right? That's not what the scene needs. And again, so seeing that type of shit as I was there, I'm like, this is fucking disappointing, dude. This type of shit is disappointing. Like all these fools should be ashamed of themselves. Like who's doing shit like that? Because it's not cool. It's not cool. Nobody gives a fuck. Nobody gives a fuck. No one wants to see your shitbox. And no one cares about your fucking little pop tunes and all this bullshit. You look like a dumbass, bro. You look like a fucking dumbass. And I don't have any love for it. I don't have any respect for it. I have nothing. And I'm sure most of you guys who are listening or watching, you can kind of get that from my tone and just the kind of way it is. Because it's just fucking whack. It's so whack. And that shit's embarrassing. Like, stop. Stop. There's a time and place. To me, there's a time and fucking place. And also, you know what? I'm not going to lie to you guys. Let's say we're at a Cars and Coffee. Like, for example, at Rob's. The one that just passed, this past Sunday. There was a Datsun, a 510. Orange, super clean. I remember, I want to say it was on TEs. It was super clean though. Swapped. Everything was really badass. And like, I wanted to see him do a little flyby, And people could easily turn around and tell me like, oh, that's the same shit, of all these other guys doing the same thing. I'm like, nah, he's not doing the same thing. It's just it's a little bit of a sprinkle. Just like, hey, what's up? Like, I'm on my way out and I'm going to let you hear the blow off valve real quick, I'm going to do a quick little rip. And he did. Like, it was a super small rip, but I was like, oh man, that's cool. It was just a little bit, just a little like, whoosh. You're like, all right. Yeah, I fuck with that. Cool. Versus these other dudes who are out here just fucking, mom. Like, dude, no one wants to hear that shit. Go away. You're fucking this up for everybody. So when I was driving home from Sunday, that's all I could think about. And it made me really fucking sad. Like I couldn't even think about how much I enjoyed what I was there for. All I could think about was the people who were fucking it up. And that's a problem. Because even right now, the fact that I'm having this conversation with you guys and talking about this shit in a negative way, it's like, it sucks because I can't remember. Like, obviously I do remember all the good times and like the good things about Sunday because they were fucking great. But I can't help but think about the negative shit first. Like, I can't help but think about it. Because all that stuff outweighed everything. And it was annoying because it's like, it's shit that was there. It was in the forefront. And I'm like, scene's in a bad place. We gotta fix this. You gotta fix it. And again, even for Rob, like, I know, and if he's listening right now, like, dude, if you're listening, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I know all the other events that you host, they're fucking sick. They've always been sick. And not that this one wasn't sick, but it's like, it's the type of person and it fucks it all up. And we got to shift that shit to make it be like, yo, that's embarrassing. Like, take that shit somewhere else. Like, get the fuck out of here. That shit's not cool no more. It's way the fuck outdated. So take your ass somewhere else. So hopefully, as things move on and as we jump into summertime, because we're coming more into the summer season, more meets are going to start happening, especially night meets. And hopefully those things can be chill because we got a lot of work to do. As a scene, we got a lot of work to do. And hopefully things pan out. I really do hope that things pan out because there are some events that are coming up that we have a chance to kind of shift up a little bit. And man, I hope it works out. I really fucking hope it works out. But that's the grunt of what I wanted to talk to you guys about today. It was just, it was on my mind. It was on my heart. And I know we've talked about it before, but just kind of seeing it and being, I guess, like more wrapped into different scenes as of late, it just reminds me more of why those people on the outside in those scenes, why they kind of look at us and they frown on it, right? Like, you guys in the lowrider scene, they kind of frown on our shit. Guys in the Americana, they kind of frown on us too, because they look at us a certain way and there's a certain stigma. And a lot of people don't realize that the shit that they're doing that's negative is reinforcing that stigma. And we got to remove that to the point where those people can also respect what's going on. I'm not saying that, for example, if guys like me show up to certain meets like that, if I was to pull up in the queue, like to a lowrider meet, that they wouldn't respect it. It's not that. But I think we have to change it as a whole, right? Because certain people, yeah, it's like, okay, yo, I fuck with that. But just as a whole, the stigma is very negative to the point where it's even on mass media. And those of you guys in different parts of, I guess you can say, I mean, all over the US, right? Because this whole takeover thing is like a massive problem and it's affecting everywhere. Like, I even saw my buddy Trey post about it today for Arizona, that he had posted that California is like cracking down on it, creating laws, doing certain things. And that he's like, fuck, man, they need to bring that shit to Arizona. And I get it, because they do. You got to bring that shit everywhere. Crack it the fuck down. But that's how we can start to change the stigma. Again, if we host events and we do certain things a certain way, we got to show the community. We got to show people like, yo, we don't fuck with that. Like, we understand that this is taking place over here. Understand what's going on over here. It has nothing to do with that. This is a completely different world. So again, creating that massive degree of separation is important. It's so fucking important. And I hope that as a community, we can do it. It's going to take a lot of work, like I said, but I know with some time, energy, love, all of it, that shit can change up for sure. And what I want to end today's episode with, of course, as I try to end every episode with, which is like some sort of advice, something that I hear, read, or see. And a big thing of that is something that kind of hit me this past week, I guess in the past couple weeks, you could say. But for today, what I want to talk about is just being aware of the company you keep and how important that is to you, how important it is. The same way that I was talking about in the previous episode about like protecting your energy and things like that. This has a lot to do with that. Because, like, for example, I had some plans that fell through with some friends this weekend. Not necessarily intentionally that they fell through, but it was just kind of like someone dropped the ball. And I have to be aware because I put energy into certain relationships, into certain things. And I realize, like, again, when things don't pan out, that shit takes me out. It does. It fucks me up. It makes me real sad. I don't like that shit. And I'm sure a lot of you guys who are listening and or are watching can agree with that too. It's one thing for plans to cancel, but when it happens a certain amount of times, you get super discouraged. And it's like, oh, fuck, man, this ain't it. You know, and that's why, for example, on Friday, like, I made time for Julian. Because Julian's really important to me. And he's made time to talk to me, to be there for me, to do all these things. It's like, cool, this is a relationship that I have to invest in. And it doesn't bother me to invest in that. So I do it. And I get to spend time with my nieces too, so I invest time in them. Because that shit makes me happy. Those types of interactions make me happy. They feed my soul. They make me feel good. And then again, for example, the same thing happened on Sunday. Julian's like, hey, dude, you know what? I got a lot of shit going on Saturday, but I'm going to be there on Sunday. And sure enough, there he was. Again, investing into the relationship. And I can invest into it, the same way. Because it gives me something. And being with him feeds my energy in a positive way. It makes me feel strong. It makes me feel like, okay, like I feel complete. I can keep moving. And that's something that I'm trying to be hyper aware of is, again, the people that I have around me and why I keep them there. Because everybody has a different purpose in everyone's life, right? I'm not saying you use people for certain things, but you kind of do. Everybody does. We're all guilty of it. But when I mean like use people, I don't want you guys to think about it in a negative way. I want you to think about it like this, like what I'm about to tell you. You have certain people, for example, that bring you a lot of joy. They're really fun. They make you laugh. And you need that. You need people like that, right? You feel it in your soul. You're like, I need to see them. I need to be with them. So you try to make plans with them. You try to instill them more into your life. You're like, yo, get up in there. Get in my life. Because I need that shit. I need your positivity. I need your love. And it's people like that. That's important. But then let's say you have other friends that you like, oh, they're kind of wishy-washy. You don't really know what's going to happen. Or you feel like you're not really as important to them as like how would you say? Like the weight doesn't feel the same. Like you feel that they're very important to you, but they don't, it's not reciprocated. You don't feel cared for. You don't feel loved. You don't feel heard. You don't feel seen. Kind of push that away. Push that shit away because you don't need that. That's not the type of company you need to keep. Look at what you need as a whole. Look at the people who can kind of fill those voids and give you the things that you need throughout life. And that's who you want to keep around. That's the shit that's important. The people who bring you love, who bring you joy, who bring you happiness. Not people who kind of make you feel a certain way and like kind of, I guess, like more negative or that kind of hurt you, that make you feel sad, shit like that. And I'm not saying you kick it with certain people to intentionally make you feel sad, but let's say, again, with the plan aspect, you always plan things with certain people and they always bail out, they always fall through. So what does it do? It makes you feel sad. So it's like, nah, stop investing in shit like that. Another example of positive investment. On Sunday when I got back, I was going to go to Long Beach Flea, which is like a new flea market. It used to be 562 Flea that was held at Long Beach City College off the PCH campus, but it got taken over by the Patches and Pins Expo. So now they have a new thing that they started there called Long Beach Flea, and I was going to go. So at first I was going to go by myself, just kind of go chill out. There was a certain vendor I wanted to go check out, and I was like, nah, fuck that. You know what? I'm going to call my buddy Zoe, which those of you guys who have been following the show for a while, you already know who I'm talking about. Zoe's a very, very close friend of mine. Called him up. I was like, yo, or I shot him a text, excuse me. I was like, yo, what are you doing? He's like, I'm editing photos, just chilling. I was like, yo, go to the flea market with me. It's like, all right, cool. Give me 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and we'll make it happen. From the moment we got in the car, like I'm chilling here. First I was going to go pick him up and he's like, yo, I'm by your house. Turns out he was driving to me. So I came back to the house. Soon as he gets in the car, sits down in the passenger seat, we started right away. Vibes super high, energy super high, love just beaming through the car. And I'm like, you see, this is the shit that I'm talking about. This is it. And honestly, it had been a couple weeks since I seen him, so it was really great to spend time with him. And we had a lot of shit to talk about and catch up on. Some of the things were pretty hard, but the fact that we have love and support for each other, I think it makes a lot of the things that we have to talk about, it makes it easier to deal with because I feel heard, I feel seen. And I know for him too, that he feels heard, he feels seen, and there's no judgment between us. So he is a part of the company in my life that's very important to me because it feeds me in a different way. It keeps my soul light. It keeps it bright. And those types of interactions, those types of people, that's the people you got to keep around in your life. And I'm not trying to tell you guys what to do or like, how the fuck to live. But the reason why I share shit like that is because these are things that help me. And through this process, there's been a lot of conversations that have been started because of this podcast. And some of you have come to me because you feel comfortable and you start talking to me, you start opening up about certain shit. And that's what I mean, because I'm trying to create a space that brings you guys peace, that brings you guys safety, that brings you guys happiness, love, light, because that's what this is for. And if I can teach and give on or pass some sort of message in some way to inspire that or to remind you of that, then why would I not want to do that? So again, be aware of the company that you keep. And I know some of you may think about it, some of you may not. For those of you guys who don't or haven't thought about it, think about it. Think about it today when you listen to this. Think about it on your drive home from work, as you go for a jog, as you're at the gym. Think about it. Start to think about the people in your life and really what those people are giving you. And I'm not saying, oh, so-and-so's a fucking asshole, clip them off. But also, let's say you don't feel good around this person. Let's say, more than half the time. You probably shouldn't be kicking it with that person. You probably shouldn't be investing in that shit. There's nothing there for you. And honestly, with the way everything's been going in my life, especially with my uncle and his fight like with cancer, it's taught me a lot. And even just like a brief on that, he and I had a rough relationship for a little bit. And when things started to go down and fall south, I was like, you know what? None of this shit matters. Like, none of it fucking matters. What matters is his health, and fuck all this other bullshit. It is what it is. But I realized watching him and the way he does certain things, and I'm like, damn, dude, like, when your health is everything, right? Your health is everything. Your state of mind is everything. And it's really fucking important, especially within the fight for cancer. You have to be in a certain mind space. You have to understand and fight in every way that you can. Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all of that. You're fighting everything every single day, all the time. All the time. But as I've gone through the last few months, and I would say as of more recently, once my uncle was like re-diagnosed, because we went through this already one time, right? So this is our second battle, and it's a lot more serious this time, which is really fucking terrifying. Not that the first time wasn't terrifying, but this time's really fucking scary. But it's put a lot into perspective of where I put my time and who I put that time with. Because as sad as it is, like the recent weeks have been pretty lonely, I would say, for myself. I've spent a lot of time with myself, a lot more time than usual. And it's made me think about it, because I'm like, damn, dude, I'd almost rather be alone and not be sad, but just kind of just be alone than to have to deal with and process like negativity and people who make me feel like shit. Because when I'm with people who make me feel like that, or that don't add anything positive to my life, like it makes me feel stupid, honestly. Because like I look at, for example, my uncle who's fighting for his fucking life every day, and I know he wants to go back in time, right, to repair and to do things like that. But where he's putting his time right now makes him happy. And he's literally thrown himself into this ocean of work, because he has a couple businesses. One of them is a michelada business, and that's where he's been putting probably 90% of his time. Whether he's, at work bottling, or, doing labels, or whatever he's doing, or talking about making different connections and trying to get it into these stores and stuff like that. That's where he's putting his time and his energy, because it makes him feel good. And I've had to come to understand and respect that, because at first I'm like, dude, you're running yourself into the ground. But like yesterday, I went to go work with him, and it's the first time that I worked with him, like with this thing. So I got to like make the michelada mix, like make and bottle it and box it and get it ready, like for retail. But I saw him through the process, and it made him feel like, even though he was a little frantic, he was like happy. He was stoked about it. And, we had some music playing. We were sitting there laughing. I'm talking my shit. He's talking his shit. And it was cool. And I'm like, you see, this is what life is about. Even though like my my man's over here fighting for his fucking life, but he's putting his time and energy into something that makes him feel good. And I think that's what we need to kind of take a step back and look at. For those of you who don't have that perspective, I hope you never get that perspective. Ever. Every single one of y'all that are listening and watching, I hope you never in your fucking life ever have to deal with anything regarding some sort of terminal illness, especially cancer, anything in that realm, because it's fucking horrible. It is the worst shit in the world to watch the person that you, or watch a person that you love with your life, to have to fight like this. This is a different kind of fight. And it's fucking scary because you never know what's going to happen. But again, I never hope you have to receive this sort of perspective. So I hope those of you listening and watching right now, that you can learn something from this, that you can take this perspective that I'm trying to give you. Because I promise you, this shit right now, I didn't have this before. I didn't have this a couple years ago. I didn't even have this a year ago. So it's very different. And again, if there's something that you can take from this, you guys, take this. Take your time, take your people, take everything, and hold it as close to you as you can. Guard and protect that shit. The same thing like I've told you guys in the past episode. Protect your energy, protect your heart, protect your time, all of that. But again, what I want you to take from today's is to be aware of the company that you keep. Watch those around you. Fill your life with people that love and care for you. Maybe there's somebody reaching out to you that don't really realize that's full of that. Give them a shot. Give them a shot. You never know. I've done that as of recently, dude. There's been people that I've been close with or like cool with per se that I've allowed into my life a lot more because I started to kind of notice something about them. Like, fuck, dude, they're giving me something that's really beautiful. Like, I'll put somebody on blast right now regarding that in a good way. Like a buddy of mine, Alfredo, and his girlfriend, Arlie, both of them, we've always been cool. And we met through my other buddy, Rob, from State of Speed. But we've always been cool. But as of recent, I've let them into my life a lot more. And it's been the best thing that I could possibly do. Not just for myself, but for everything about me. Like, Fredo's so fucking supportive. And we've had these really wild, deep conversations. And at first, not that I was keeping him at an arm's distance, but I started to realize, like, yo, he is a good person. He is really a good fucking person. I gotta let this person in. I gotta let him pass the gates. Him and his girlfriend. And when I did, it was like one of the best things I could have done. And that was after doing, again, some reflection and starting to see and being like, hey, you know what? This is a good thing. Let me let this in. Let's pull this forward. Boom. Pulled it forward. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And again, I hope, Fredo, I hope you're cool with that shit. Me putting you on blast right now, and Arlie too, because I know both of y'all are going to be listening to this. But those are the types of relationships you guys got to look out for. Look out for the people that feed you, that give you positivity, love, all of that. And also, I mean, of course, like, return it to them as well. Not that you owe people things, but give out love. Give out positivity. Give out light. Push that shit out as much as you can, because when that shit comes back to you, it feels so good. It feels so good. Like, just take it, receive it for everything that it is. And I know a lot of us, like, it's hard to receive that sort of love, that because we're not used to it. Maybe some of us aren't really used to receiving that all the time. But when you can receive it, take it in. Take it in. Accept that shit, because it's everything. It's going to feed you in ways that you never thought like you could be fed. And maybe it'll also feed something that you didn't really know needed to be fed too. That's really important. And the same concept that I will talk to you guys about forever on this podcast, keeping your garden up. Look at certain flowers and water that shit. And that's what this is all about. And sometimes you might need to plant a new plant, right? You see one that's kind of dying out. Don't keep watering. Nothing's going to happen. Pull that shit out, throw it away, put in a new one that actually deserves to be in your garden. So that when you sit there and you wake up in the morning and you're looking at that shit, you're like, this is it. This is it. This is what I was trying to have the whole time. I was trying to have everything look beautiful as fuck. And sometimes when you start to replace those things and replant, resoil, water a little bit, it all starts to come together. And I think that's kind of where I'm at. And I started to realize that more and more again, unfortunately, because of something not so positive. But because of that, I think everything happens in your life for a reason. So I was supposed to see this part. I was supposed to reevaluate friendships, family, all of it. Because those are the types of things that mean a lot. So I appreciate you guys for listening, for watching all this. Thank you for always supporting me. I appreciate y'all. I will always say that. I know it sounds super repetitive. I keep saying I appreciate you guys and I love you guys, but I do. I don't know how else to fucking say that. And if I can give all of you guys a hug who are listening right now and watching, trust me, I would. If I see some of y'all in the near future, please, I'll give you that damn hug, because without you guys, I wouldn't be doing this. It would just be, again, like I've said before, me sitting here in my room talking to a camera. But thankfully, there's at least one other person that's on the end of this watching it. And hopefully it can start a conversation that's beautiful and start something incredible for us. But again, thank you guys so much. I appreciate you. Love you. Sending you nothing but light, all the good things. I hope you guys have an amazing day, an even better week, and an incredible weekend. I will catch you guys on the next one.